My name is Isabella Johnston, the Intern Whisperer, and our show is brought to you by Employers for Change. And today's tip of the week is about the halo effect. We always want to acknowledge where we get our information from, and we are acknowledging that they come from Built In. So thank you, Built In, for having these great tips about unconscious bias. So we're going to talk about the halo effect, as I said. This is a tendency for people where they have to place another person on a pedestal after learning something impressive about them. I'm sure that, we all know that, oh, wow, I didn't know you were that person. That's amazing. I am sure you're like the best speaker there is that I've ever heard, things like that. So this is a tendency where people have to place another person on a pedestal just because they're really, really impressed with them and they're wanting them to just realize, oh, I'm very impressed. The halo effect can come into play at any stage of the hiring process. You may see a candidate that's, done considerable amount of work. They've been highly regarded by a company or they've graduated from elite schools like, oh, wow, you graduated from Harvard? That's amazing. And if there's anything that we've learned about the 2019 college admission scandal, it's not to judge a candidate on the merit of their name brand education. So how can we avoid the halo effect? We just need to make sure that we recognize that it can be dangerously blinding when it comes to reviewing candidates. Just because somebody has that on their resume, Harvard or whatever the school is, or whatever that GPA may be, or the fact that they speak 5 languages, it can be avoided. So when reviewing a stack of applications, you're probably looking for something unique that makes a candidate stand out from the rest. When you do this, also consider the candidate without that one gleaming attribute and see how their experiences, their skills, their personalities compare to other candidates who may not have had the same privileges or opportunities. So just remember, we are all the same on the inside. We all have gifts to bring to the table. We all have areas of growth, and just acknowledge these people, that are just like all of us. Welcome to the Intern Whisperer. Our show is all about the future of work and innovation. So welcome to the Intern Whisperer. Our show is all about the future of work and innovation. And today's guest is somebody I've been trying to get for a long time, John Cunningham. He's the newly appointed COO with VRAR Association. I know I threw that association in extra. John has a rich 30-year history of leading and serving in multiple roles. I always like to lead that somebody is a veteran. So thank you for your service, John, in the Army. He is a consulting technologist, a thought leader, and he is a seriously sought after speaker. He is one of the pioneers in the XR and AI industry, and he helped organizations such as the U.S. Department of Defense, Army Corps of Engineers, Lockheed Martin, NASA, Siemens Energy, and the City of Orlando. And he helped implement AR and VR in their operations. And he previously worked with Unity, Aruba Networks, Motorola, HP, and Verizon. John, you are just like everywhere, and you are just doing so much good work. I love that so much, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Well, thank you, Isabella. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. And sorry it's taken so long, to join you. It's just been really, really busy this year.
So I know the feeling. I know the feeling. So tell us about yourself in only 5 words and why that's 5.
Okay, so the 5 words is actually a little bit of a sentence. So it's always looking for new challenges. And the reason I chose that is because I look back over my 30 plus years career, and that's really been what it's been all about. From the military into technology, I've always been looking for the next challenge, the next thing that's going to push our industry or organizations forward, and looking for new ways that I can add value.
That is very true. And you're so sharp. I always love having conversations and hearing you speak. So, I always learn something so much. I would love to get, like, how did you get started? What was your career path?
Sure.
Where did you go for school? And then where are you? How'd you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a very long journey that I've taken, but it all started with me wanting to get a college education. I knew that I wanted to be in computers, and I knew I wanted to be in the Army because my father was in the Army. And I was given an Army ROTC scholarship to attend Florida A&M University. And I completed the ROTC program, became an Army signal officer, thought I was going to spend my whole career as an Army officer. I deployed to Germany and then deployed to Desert Storm and Somalia and a few other things before I decided, okay, this isn't what I want to do with my career. I got married to a wonderful woman named Sarah, who I met at FSU. She was a student at FSU when I met her, and we got married and decided, okay, I'm going to get out of the Army, and then we're going to travel globally. So I ended up living overseas for 23 years, always opening up new markets for companies. I lived in Africa, the Middle East. I lived in Asia for 12 years. Before moving back to the States. But my whole career has really been in technology, either on the government side and the defense side, or working for private organizations, opening up new markets and creating new products.
That is like very succinct. So you have done, like I said, so very much. Did you see that as a career path that you actually wanted to pursue?
I did not. I think, how many of us at 18, 19, 20, 21 really know what we want to do the rest of our lives? I think we have ideas, but then life happens, right? And when life happens, decisions get made for you, or you make decisions or choices, and then those result in different paths that we take. So I knew that I wanted to be in technology. I remember my first computer was a Radio Shack TRS-80. And that's where I learned how to code, and I got my degree in data processing. So I always knew that I wanted to be in technology. I just originally thought it would be through the Army my whole career. And by the way, even though I knew Army career, that wasn't going to be a lifetime, that was going to be maybe 20 years. It ended up only really being 4 years. So I think, it's okay for people not to know what they want to do with the rest of their life. Life is a journey. But you do need to develop skills, find something that you really enjoy, that you're passionate about, and get skills in that can make you, that you can help you earn money or make a career.
What is your favorite takeaway that you learned from each of these types of, really rich experiences? You worked with big companies, and then, you've gone into this other route of being in a professional association, which is a global thing also.
Yeah, the thing that I've taken away from all these experiences is I love, never give up, right? Never give up on your dreams. Always try to improve yourself. Always seek challenges and take the hard jobs. Take the jobs or the projects that people don't want, because that's where you're going to learn the most.
I get it.
And then you ask me, I think you also asked me for a quote. And this is a quote that I really enjoy. I know it may not be popular with a lot of people, but the quote is from General Patton. And he said this in World War II. And the quote is, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Now, and a lot of people don't like that, because General Patton was somewhat of an abrasive individual, but no one can argue the fact that he got things done. Okay. And so, that quote means, be a leader, but also know when it's time to be a follower and let other people lead. And if you can't be a leader or follow, then move out of the way and let other people lead or follow.
Yeah, he was a direct communicator.
Yeah, and I think that's the spirit of it. It's so, so often people want to get involved and do things, but they don't know when to lead or to follow. And sometimes it's best just to step aside and let other people do that. So that's a quote that I enjoy.
What is the hardest lesson that you learned that changed your life?
Oh boy, there's a whole lot of them that have changed my life. But one of the hardest lessons that I've learned is that I can't do it all. I can't do it myself. We all need other people. We need to be able to give up something to get something. And sometimes that's very hard to do. So yeah, that was probably one of the hardest lessons that I learned.
I could not agree with you more. I think that, first off, I believe we're made for a relationship. Just like what you're saying there, we need each other. But I think that people It's so interesting. Little children, you have kids, right?
Yeah, yeah, I sure do.
Kids do not hesitate to say, "Hey, I need help," but adults don't like to say that.
That is absolutely true. For some reason, we've been conditioned that it's weakness to ask for help, and I actually think it's a strength if you can ask for help the right way, right? It's not just, hey, help, help, help. It's, I need assistance, or here's a vision, or how do we do this together? I think that's what we need to remember.
I agree totally. I love this. I love this interview. It's going so well, and I feel like we're on the same page here. How about what are you most grateful for?
Oh, well, I think I'm most grateful for the relationships that I have in my life, my wife and my children. As you go through life, you realize that it's hard to make old friends, right? You can't make old friends. You can make new friends,
Yeah.
but those friends that you've made earlier on in your life, treasure those, nurture those relationships. But, for me, what I'm most grateful for is my family.
Mm. And people will always kind of come and go, right? We know
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That definitely
People come and
happens.
go. And that's okay, right? People coming and
Yeah.
going is okay. And enjoy the moment, nurture those relationships and understand that sometimes paths go different ways, and that's okay.
Yeah. I kind of feel like people are placed in life in different whatever direction that you're going, whether it's careers, right? We have a lot of friends I'm sure you had friends from Army days, but you may not see them as much anymore. It's same as in all of
Absolutely.
these really great places that you've worked. Do you have a preference as to enterprise or the small indies? Because you get to work when you were with Unity, you worked with a lot of small startups.
Yeah, look, both of those, let's call them organizations, large
Yeah.
organizations, small organizations, businesses, universities, they all have different characteristics. I think I've enjoyed all of them. I've learned something from both of them. And today where I'm kind of at is I enjoy working with large enterprises that want to do new things and use this new technology, XR, AI, Web3 technologies, because they can have a tremendous impact. I mean, you can change a trajectory of a large business if they can do it right. But I also really enjoy working with startup companies and emerging technology companies and organizations that maybe are a little bit past startup and they're ready to scale. So, I guess, I'm not going to choose just one at this point in my career. I'm trying to find ways that I can help, different organizations in many different ways. And that's why the VRAR Association and also the Space Force Association gives me the opportunity every day just to be involved and continue to learn and give back.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Separate. I love military questions, though. What is the best thing that you got out of the military, and how long did you say you served?
Well, I was 4 years what they call active duty, and then I was also in the reserves because I owed another 4 years after I got out because of my scholarship. And there's an obligation. The government pays for your college, and you sign that paper. You owe 8 years of your life. At that time, I don't know what it is now, but I had three different opportunities to support combat operations in Desert Storm, in Somalia, and in Bosnia. And so through those experiences, I learned a tremendous amount about people and about how people operate under stress and in good times. And a lot of those experiences have really helped me in my civilian career.
Mm, very true. So let me come over here. Who in your life has had the biggest impact and why?
I would say my wife, Sarah. She's had the biggest impact, and I think it's because, when you're in a, I mean, I've been married 32 years now, right? So there's a lot of experience there, and nobody knows you better than the person you spend the most time with, and she holds me accountable. She's one of those people that kind of can cut through and knows me and can hold me accountable to myself, which is hard sometimes. It's a hard conversation when someone calls you out and says, "Wait a minute, this is the way it really is," or knows you back when you were a very different person, and and so I think having someone that holds you accountable and genuinely has, like, she genuinely has my best interest at heart to help me continue to grow.
Hmm. I can tell that your wife is everything. I remember the first time I met her. She is just such a lovely woman. And you mentioned about being accountable. I love that you pointed that out. Sometimes people don't like to be held accountable and they don't want somebody to say, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth, what you need to
Yeah, don't
hear,
get me
right?
wrong. I don't like to be held accountable, but
Yeah.
I know it's good for me.
Yeah. And you know that if somebody loves you, they're really going to do that, right?
I'm really going to do that. And that's why, those deep friendships that go way back are very important later in life, and like I tell my two sons, I have two sons. One's 24. He's a second lieutenant in the Air Force. And I have a second son who's a sophomore at the United States Air Force Academy. So I'm wearing my Air Force dad shirt, my proud dad shirt. Um, and they're 5 years apart, but we always told them, listen, you two can't fight. You have to resolve your differences. You have to be friends, because later in life, when mom and I are gone, it's going to be the two of you. And so we've really tried to make a big impact on them to nurture that relationship and make sure that they find time to continue to build on their relationship.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, what do you want to be remembered for in your life?
Oh, wow. I think I just like to be remembered by my family as being being present, being there to help them. And I think in my career, I really don't know. I think it's just, that I tried to help a lot of people in business be successful.
Mm-hmm. Many times, I find that as a really good question because it makes people stop and think, like, oh, wow, what is that impact? Because it's always about leaving impact in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you really think about it until later in life. I mean, I think when we're younger, we're so busy trying to do things that interest us or improves our lives or pursues a passion. But I think as you start, kind of getting towards past the midpoint of life, you start like thinking about more seriously, okay, what is this all for? What's this all about? And those of us that, have children, you look at them and that's really your living legacy, right? The gifts that we give them, the skills that we help them develop, and then watching them go off and be their own humans.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a teacher?
I don't consider myself a teacher, but I think it happens. When you start getting experience, then you realize that people younger than you want to learn from those experiences. You by default become a teacher.
Yeah, I think that in life we just about all are. We don't even realize it. Because that collective wisdom is what shapes us from
Yeah.
people that were ahead of us, and we're doing the same too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I look back at everything that I've experienced, and there's always been people ahead of me that have shared their experiences, their insights, and their knowledge with me. Now, whether I chose to accept that or use it is a different thing, but it's been there, and that's something I encourage young people that are just still in school or starting their career out. Find those people that have gone down that path and
Mhm.
learn from them. There's a quote I heard from someone one time that really stuck with me. It said, in life, you can learn things two different ways. One, you can learn through your own experience, or two, you can learn through other people's experience. It's generally a lot less painful to learn through others.
Mhm. That
Right?
is so true.
It really is, right? So no, I think, and that's why I think mentoring programs are so important. I'm involved in Rotary. I've been a Rotarian for 12, 15 years. And one of the programs that I'm most proud of that Rotary has is youth mentorship programs where, experienced business professionals are able to share their experience and knowledge with younger Rotarians who are still in school or just have come out of school and started their careers.
Hmm. How do you see now? You raised a good question. There's like Rotary, there's Elks, there's Moose, these other organizations. I remember them also. Do you
Yeah.
see that young is also pulling in a younger demographic?
That's a very good question because I think we're struggling. A lot of these services organizations say the same thing, that they're really struggling to get younger people interested. And there's many reasons for it. but I think it's incumbent on these organizations to try to meet younger people where they are and try to let them know that, hey, we're interested, we want to help you. But there's also, it's up to the younger people to kind of seek out organizations that can help them grow. So I think it's a little bit of both. But yeah, we're definitely, in today's age of media and always on entertainment and things like that, we're finding it more challenging to get younger people interested in service organizations. But I don't think it's because younger people are less interested in service. I think it's quite the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's just so many ways for people to get involved and get engaged. They no longer have to go to Rotary or to Elks or to Masons. So I think it's all changing a little bit. But what I'm really excited about is when I go around Orlando, for example, and I see on the weekend, I just see young people supporting and serving and helping, and and that's fantastic. So whether it's through a formal organization or through a faith-based organization or through just some folks getting together wanting to do good things, I think that's all fine.
Yep. So we're going to take a break and acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and we will be right back.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
Now we're back to the second half of our show, and we're going to talk about the future of jobs and industries in 2030, 2035. I know this is going to be like one of probably your favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, right.
Sarah. Yeah. So what do you think? Now, this is just an opinion question. What do you think 2030 will look like? Because basically we know that's about like 5 years, because 2030 doesn't count. This year doesn't count. So we're looking at really a difference of like about 5 years there.
Oh, well, first of all, I don't think that much is going to change in 5 years about how work looks. I think the pandemic clearly caused us to rethink the workplace and what work means to us, as we've seen by so many companies that, where workers were able to work remotely and they've chosen that that's how they want to spend their time. And then now we're at this point where we're starting to see the evidence that in some cases, pure remote work doesn't work for some organizations. It works for other organizations. There is no one answer. First of all, but I think in some businesses where you have to do physical things like put hardware and software together to make a product. Healthcare, you can't do that all remotely. So I think it's going to be up to individuals to determine their lifestyle, how they want to pursue their profession, and if they do want to work purely virtual, what organizations support that. But I don't see it changing much in 5 years. I think new technologies are going to come on board that's going to enable more productivity. Obviously AI is already impacting some areas of business. It's a super powerful tool that can help both individuals and organizations be more powerful. We're going to see more extended reality technologies, like the VR headsets and maybe augmented reality glasses that bring data to the worker wherever they are, whether they're a frontline worker on an assembly line, whether they're a doctor or a nurse, or perhaps whether they're a pilot, a policeman, or a soldier. Those technologies are going to be used to improve human performance at the workplace. But in 5 years, I don't fundamentally seeing things look much different than they do today.
Gotcha. Well, what about, robots? Because we talk about robots a lot. And for me, I can see that they're like, when you were mentioning career paths that are like outside, the people that fix, electrical, street lights, anything that's electricity, I could see that moving more towards robot.
Oh, I no doubt that robots are going to play a role in our society in doing jobs that are repetitive, dangerous, and don't require a great deal of human interaction. They're going to be tools that we use to make our lives easier, better, and safer. No doubt about that. And so, I mean, when I was growing up, we used to watch the Jetsons, and there was this dream of having the maid robot that would do everything in the house. Well,
Mhm.
look, it's probably not too unrealistic in the future. I mean, I have a Roomba here in my house that is constantly cleaning our floors, which is great because I don't have to pick up a vacuum, or my wife doesn't have to pick up a vacuum as much. We still have to use it every once in a while, but that's going to just continue to get better, right?
Mhm.
And then in the workplace, I mean, one of the things that really has me excited is robotic drones. The ability for these flying drones to go do things like inspect power lines, inspect power plants, inspect pipes. They're doing stuff that is almost impossible for humans to do, or very difficult and very expensive.
Mhm.
So we're just going to have to deal with this cohabitation with robots doing some things. And I know that scares some people, and that's okay. I mean, there needs to be boundaries, but look where we're at today with the car. Imagine asking great grandparents, if we were able to take our great grandparents and bring them into our society of today, what they would think,
Mhm.
right? And I think it's the same thing with robots.
There was this thing, it was several years ago, where Chernobyl, they had robots that were going into that radiation. It's still,
Yep.
radioactive. And they would send robots in there to go and test it and see, what can still live, inside of there.
Yeah, I know. I used to work for Carnegie Mellon University at the Robotics Institute, and they're the ones that actually built those robots that went into the Chernobyl nuclear reactor site. And they actually have one of those, not one that went, but they built multiple models. They kept
Right.
one at the institute to show people, a living example of this is a replica of the robot that went in there. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? Right? The fact
Yeah.
that we use technology to go do something and not put people in harm's way. I
I
mean,
think
we're
there was
starting to see.
something.
Go
Was
ahead.
there something that happened to the robot though too? Was there some kind of um decay that had
Oh
happened to?
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, you're going to put a machine in an environment like that. Yeah, you're not going to bring it back out because it's going to be contaminated, but there's going to be mechanical failures. I mean, we look at the spot robots that you see at all the trade shows, the ones that look like dogs.
Yeah, and they
Uh,
walk around. Yeah.
and look, you put cameras on them. I remember during the pandemic, Singapore deployed those spot robots out in the parks during COVID. And all they did was the robots would go and see if people were closer than 2 meters, 6 feet, and they would go up to them and give them a message, please separate yourselves.
Hmm.
Right now, it was a public service thing, but how valuable is that? I mean, that showed a real world example where you didn't have to put a human going out and reminding people, to, hey, you need to separate right now because we're in a dangerous time. So,
What was the outcome of that? I didn't see that. So how did people react to it? Do you know?
well, first of all, ask yourself this question: if we're in a park and I come up to you and say, Isabella, you please separate yourselves, you're going to look at me and you're going to be a little bit grumpy, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
what are you telling me? But now, if this four-legged machine comes up and just says in a nice tone, please be reminded you need to be, 6 feet apart, you might receive it a little bit differently. And what I saw, the outcome was people were very receptive. They knew that it was a public safety thing, that this was being done for their benefit, and they didn't have to interface with a human and potentially have a negative engagement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see robots doing a lot of things that would be really good work. I don't know if you've ever seen Black Mirror. I assume you have.
Yeah, I've seen some of the episodes.
They're like a cautionary tale to me. It's like, oh, this is what can happen if you don't do things right in the world of AI and robots and AR, VR.
No, I definitely think that we need to be cautious. We need to have right oversights on technology, because there are people out there that have different interests in using technology,
Right.
either promote their own agendas or for harm. So we do need oversight. But I think the benefits that a lot of this technology brings us just makes our lives better.
Mm-hmm. I saw on 60 Minutes, it was on October 8th. That was my birthday, so I can remember it. But his name is Jeffrey Hinton, and he's the godfather. They call him the godfather of AI. He invented it back in the 50s. It was way, way back. And he had said, we do need to make sure we're being I'll call it good guardians and exhibit stewardship around it, because if we don't, it could go bad really fast.
Well, but it's like that with anything, right? I mean, if we don't control big businesses, they can become monopolies.
Yes.
It's just exactly. But look, I have, it's funny because I graduated college in 1989 and I have a minor in AI. And I
Really?
remember, yeah. And I mean, we were using languages like Lisp and Prolog to do best path analysis for different things. And when you're a student, you're looking at, oh my gosh, the future of the world and how what I'm learning today is going to help. That was over 30 years ago. And we're just now starting to get into the stuff that we were thinking about 30 years ago. Like, can we actually teach machines to do this, or can machines learn themselves? So, I would encourage students that are studying these different technologies to dream about what are the possible good use cases for the technology, but also dream about what could go wrong if it's not properly controlled and managed.
Yeah, I love that advice. I think that's the best advice anybody should take from the show so far, is the fact that curiosity, don't be complacent. Don't just sit there and, go to school and have people spoon feed you. You need to be questioning constantly and be curious and just wonder, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. And, I often get asked to talk to students and give advice and things like that. And here's what the best advice I think I give is, you own your education. Your learning journey is yours. Institutions, teachers, they're there to help you, but you, at the end of the day, you own your journey. And so take it like it's a life journey. Learn everything that you can, things that interest you. Also, you're going to have to learn things that you may not like and may not interest you. You may not see why it's relevant that I have to learn algebra now. Believe me, some of that stuff you may not use in your job, but the fact that you know it and understand it will be important. I'm taking a course right now, and this is something I put out on LinkedIn. I absolutely believe in lifelong learning. I think that being curious about things and wanting to learn is just part of our life's journey. And I always try to tell my sons that it's like, okay, you finished your undergrad, now it's time to start thinking about your next degree or certification, but always be improving yourself. And so I have to set the example. So a few months ago, I signed up for a space professional certification program.
I remember you posted that.
A lot of work I'm doing right now is in, the space industry is booming, haha, pun intended, but there's a lot of opportunity in space. And I really felt ignorant when I'd be around a lot of these space professionals talking about LEO and MEO and satellite vectors. And I did not understand that. So I'm like, okay, I have to go learn that. And I said, where's the best place, the fastest place that I can learn what I need to know? And I found Global Space University, and I signed up for the Space Professional Certification Program. It's been phenomenal. I'm learning a whole lot of stuff. However, in that course, we had to calculate how to move satellites around and how much thrust was needed. And they actually gave us calculus problems. And I had to admit, I haven't touched this stuff in 35 years. I had to ask for help. So I actually called my kids up and said, can you help me understand this? And they said, Dad, here, use this tool on the web, just punch it all in.
Yeah.
But point is, understanding how the math behind it, what are the decisions that engineers have to make? I didn't have to know how to do all the math. I just had to understand how math was used to get to a decision about what angle to launch a rocket at, how much fuel you have to load. Once it's in orbit, how do you change the orbit?
It made it so much more conversational, right?
And I think that's what learning is. And the wonderful thing about learning today is you don't have to go to a college or a university and sit in a traditional classroom. You can go learn through YouTube and Khan Academy, and there's just unlimited resources
Mhm.
out there to learn things. You don't have to take a structured course. Now, if students are watching this, I'm not saying don't go get degrees. Degrees are
Mhm.
absolutely valuable. You know, certifications and credentials is how we show society that we've passed a certain series of examinations. I mean, like in a company, if we needed to hire Unity developers, for example, I can't tell whether Unity developer knows Unity or not. But if they have a Unity professional certification, I know that, okay, I know that that certification requires that they have to pass these things. So that's why those certifications are important, I think, still.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you. Certifications are also a faster way to be able to demonstrate your knowledge.
Yeah.
And, you can definitely build on top of them without having to. I don't, I was an educator and still am, but I don't think school is for everybody because, like a
Mhm.
traditional 4-year degree, and 2 years, I think is a good thing for sure
Yeah. Yeah.
because you
I
learn a lot about yourself.
Well, and I also think I had this conversation recently with one of my sons that I'm concerned that we're getting away from teaching under liberal arts
Yeah.
because I think
So
the
important.
liberal arts, it helps us understand what it is to be human, to appreciate music and art and sociology and philosophy. Oh my gosh, understanding if you can understand philosophy, physics, chemistry, and psychology, you can pretty much understand how the world operates,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I agree with you. Formal, let's call them school, college,
Yeah.
universities for everyone. Uh, but I do think that people, especially since our society is getting more sophisticated, that you need to have a good baseline of a number of different subject areas. And otherwise, what happens is you might want to change your professional career at some point because what you're doing is not interesting you, and then it's harder to transfer over.
Mm, very true. So I know we talked about, remote and blended work. Totally, I get that one. What about AR and VR? How fast do you think it can actually become affordable for people to use on a
Yeah.
daily basis?
Well, it's affordable now. So I mean, if you have your phone and you're using some of these shopping apps like Walmart or IKEA, where you can look at your furniture and then hold it up and see it in your room, or you can do a try on of sunglasses, that's augmented reality. It's built into our phones today.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people think augmented virtual reality, they're immediately thinking these bulky
The heavy,
headsets.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's what I tell folks. This is not about the goggles. This is
yeah.
not about the glasses. This is about information and data following us as we go through our daily life. Some of it's going to be visual, some of it's going to be audio, some of it's going to be kinesthetic, right? We're going to have wearable technology that does things for us. Our Google Maps, when we're driving, or Waze, tells us to go left or right. So the big where we're at today is we're at the beginning of the next revolution of the internet, which is the real-time 3D internet, what a lot of people call Web 3. We're there. We are there. It's being built right now. The next 10 years is going to be a big construction period. But the headset technology is going to get lighter, faster, cheaper, to the point where they're going to be sunglass-sized things, or they're going to be embedded into construction helmets. We're going to have audio guidance. So that's all coming.
Oh, yeah.
But what's important is that behind it, it's the systems that are able to understand contextual information and data and get it to the users in the way that they need it.
Mm-hmm. I think you raised such a good point because most people don't think about, oh, it is being used in their phone. I know that last year I went to 2 years ago, actually, I went to the Future of Ed Tech a conference, and they said, okay, everybody pull out their phone. And I knew this was coming though. And they said, okay, download this. And they said, use Google. We're going to search for cats. And there was cats just swarming all over the floor. Now, if it was like, raptors or something like that, that could have been terrifying. But, cats are super, nice and friendly. And I don't think that most of us realize that we can actually access it right through our phone.
Yeah, you can access it through your phone. And then every day, new headsets. I mean, Ray-Ban and Meta just teamed up and they've come out with the new Ray-Bans that have some augmented reality capability built into them. It's going to be really exciting. Anybody that hasn't seen Ready Player One, I suggest go see the movie Ready Player One. It is really a far-fetched, futuristic, worst case view. But if you look at what's going on in Ready Player One and how data is being presented, I don't think that's too far-fetched for us here in the next decade.
I have not seen that movie. Now, based on your recommendation, I mean, other people have said it, but you have a different influence in my life. So I'm going to go make sure I go watch that movie.
Yeah, it's Matrix is a good one too. But
Yeah.
Ready Player One really touched me because I went, wow, this could actually happen if not controlled. But once again, there are some good things in there that I know companies that are already developed, that are already putting out there, and that are going to help us. So yeah, and I think Ready Player One is not a new movie; it's been around for many.
It's been
years.
around for a while. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. What did you think about here? We just had last week, and just so our listeners know when they actually hear this, we're talking about in October of 2023, just predicting it's going to be a year later soon. We had the Meta Center World Global event.
Global Week. Yep, the Meta Center Global Week. Yep.
Yeah. And you guys were a big part of it, you and Nathan. And Nathan has been a guest on the show, Nathan Pettyjohn. He's the head of ARVR. But, you're second in command. So you guys are really helping guide what these conversations can be. I love everything that you've been bringing up because for the average person, I don't think that they know what's going on. So you're going to be able to expand the conversation. But going to that event this week, I saw Sony, I saw Google, I saw Meta, and they were all sharing technologies that were truly amazing that I hadn't seen before. So is there something that's coming out that you think or that was at that conference that's worthy of sharing to the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we're I've been interviewing folks and asking them, do they believe we're at the tipping point for XR? A tipping point being Malcolm Gladwell's definition. That's when something spreads like wildfire. And I think the overall consensus was that in certain industries, we're at the tipping point, and healthcare is one of those. Healthcare is an industry that is ready for disruption. This technology can help everyone from nurses and clinicians to physicians to patients. And so I think we're going to see a lot of XR technology in healthcare. Defense, it's already been there for a while. It's going to continue to grow. And then you're going to see, virtual reality for training in all industries because it just makes sense. It's just so much more efficient to put on a headset and do training rather than sitting there looking at a computer screen. I mean, that's the basics of it. But here's what it's got me really excited for our region. The whole point of that conference was to bring a global association, the VRAR Association, to Orlando, partner up with a Florida-based conference, which is called Synapse, here in Orlando, to both showcase what we've got locally, but also bring global organizations to see what we have here. We are really at an interesting point in Central Florida where it's not, we're not the new Silicon Valley, right? Because Silicon Valley, but we are something special where we have this large ecosystem of companies that are developing applications and solutions in XR using AI. And we're a hungry area. We're an area where people are hungry to want to be recognized that, hey, we have something here special. And I think we accomplished that. And so I think one of the challenges that I used to run a business here in Orlando. One of the challenges that I always faced was that our engineers, our developers, once they had 2 to 3 years of experience, they felt they had to go to California to work for, a Microsoft or a Unity or something like that. Well, that was because they didn't feel that the opportunities and the companies were here. Well, we're all working on that. We're working at bringing these companies into Central Florida, and bringing the jobs here so that people can start their academic career here or their trade skill and then continue to live here and be involved in that high-tech industry. So it's really an exciting time. And I think that, hats off to David Adelson and the team at Innovate Orlando and the Orlando Economic Partnership for really helping organize this as a showcase. And this is just the start, right? We're really just at the start of this Meta Center Global Week. I can't wait till 2024. I'm sure it's going to be bigger and better. And it's just going to, like South by Southwest, they started off with like 300 people in Austin, Texas. And now it's one of the largest arts and music and technology festivals in the world. So good. It's a good time to be in Central Florida. If you're in the technology and arts industry.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. I don't know if you know Sue Bole, but she's with the Serious Play Conference, and I've gone to those. I'm pretty sure you've been a speaker there in the past.
I know Sue.
Yeah, and that's where I saw a lot because you mentioned healthcare. I go to ITSEC, so I see it there. How all of this is being used in that industry, and I also listen to a lot of the speakers that are at the Serious Play Conference. Always enjoy those because I learned so much about how it is being used. And I could not agree more. With so much of a shortage in healthcare for nurses and just assistants, I can definitely see that there would be more robotic use in there. Somebody had told me about how they walked into a clinic to go get an x-ray done, and there was no staff. You just check in on a wall. You just go right on in. Once you have checked in, there was somebody that was, behind the next door that would say, okay, you're going to go in here and greet you that way. But it was, it's a difficult industry to provide solutions with people that need help in healthcare. So, robotics, I could see that going there too.
Yeah, no, healthcare. And plus the other thing that's good about Florida is we do have such a large elderly population. People move here, large hospital networks. So we're a good market for developing the technology and then putting it to use or working together with the healthcare industry to create the solutions that they need. I just had the honor of going over to Dr. Robert Masson's, the Masson Spine Institute here in Orlando. I met him at the conference. And he's using augmented reality in his surgical suite today. This is not a, hey, we're building this, come look. He's like, no, I'm using it today to help my team, my surgical team, be more efficient. And I got to witness that firsthand in the operating suite, and I was blown away. They're because what they're doing is really about improving workflow, and augmented reality technology gives them the ability to do that. So yeah, very, very exciting time in healthcare for us here in Central Florida.
Very much so. So what ethical dilemmas do you foresee? I know you touched on some of them.
Oh yeah. Oh geez. There's look, it's like I think at a high level, it's like where's the right places to use technology and to what extent do you use technology? Humans are still really important. And you can't solve every human problem with technology. And I think that's the real ethical dilemma. Now we get into military use. There's a whole nother area of who makes the decisions about what things to do. And that's way above my pay grade, but I definitely think it's something that, we need to be mindful of and make sure that we got controls in place. And the other thing really that I think the area that I'm concerned about is more about information, people's personal information. And that's not an XR thing. But it does, when you're using, if you have augmented reality glasses on and you're walking around, you're capturing data, you're capturing images, and, people can learn a lot about what you're seeing and what you're doing. So we just got to make sure we got good checks and balances in there and not overreact too much on one side or the other.
Okay, so best mentoring advice. I know that that ethical dilemmas was filled with really good mentoring advice, but do you have something?
I think the best mentoring advice for young people that are looking at, that are still in school or just start, find mentors. Don't be shy to ask. Look, people that have been through 30, 40 years of business or education, they want to share their knowledge. They want to share their experience. And don't be afraid to just go ask and say, hey, I would like to talk to you. Can you answer some questions for me? Okay. I mean, people want to share, but people aren't gonna, like, I'm not going to go out and try to find students that I can help, right? But if someone comes and says, hey, can you give me some advice on this or help me with this? Absolutely be glad to, or point them in the right direction where somebody else can help them.
Yeah. I assume that you guys are going to be at the upcoming ITSEC conference, right?
Oh boy, of course. We can't miss ITSEC.
No way. Do you guys also show up at IAPA? I know that's right around.
IAPA, yeah, I'll be at IAPA. I'll be at ITSEC. Yes. Now we may not, we're not going to have an association booth, but there will be a lot of our members that will have their booths that we'll be going in and supporting.
Gotcha. Well, how can people reach out to you? We always provide your LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. And that's another advice that I would have for folks coming coming out of college or into the workforce is LinkedIn is really becoming a very, very powerful professional networking platform.
Yes.
And I've been encouraging both my sons to really, get on LinkedIn, use it, get connected, develop relationships. So that's the way I would say if people want to reach out to me is reach out to me through LinkedIn.
And what is the website for VRAR?
It is www.thevrara.com. www.thevrara.com. One word. thevrara.com. There we go.
And it's a national organization, right?
Oh, it's global. It's a global organization.
Global.
We have shops all over the world. We have 60,000 people on our distribution list, about 7,000 members. We're really trying to be the association for the XR industry, right? Where people that want to learn about the technology, that want to do business, go. And that's what associations do, right? It's supposed to be and we're trying to get very focused on XR.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And I just, I'm so thankful that I got to have this conversation because it's hard to get FaceTime with you because you're very popular. There's always a circle of people around you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Isabel. And I appreciate everything that you're doing. And, anytime you need something, please feel free to reach out.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We want to thank our sponsor, Cat5 Studios, and thank you to our video team, Gabe Laporte, Tommy Myers, Andrew Pigot, and Julissa Hurtado. Music is by Charles Lawrence Lead, and you can visit Employers for Change at www.e4c.tech to learn how you can create real diversity and inclusive culture while skilling your people for the future work. Thank you for supporting the Intern Whisperer by subscribing to us on Podbean, our Employers for Change YouTube channel, or streaming from your favorite podcast channel.